So let's get started. It's my privilege to introduce to you Dr. Lawrence Spraggs. Dr. Lawrence Spraggs is most recently very retired from Boone Community College in Binghamton, New York. Dr. Spraggs, forgive me if I don't continue to outline your many accomplishments, but they've all been readily available online, and I know they would much rather hear from you than to listen to me talk about you. So allow me to frame the question that he was presented, and the floor will be Dr. Spraggs. GRCC, Michigan's oldest two-year college, has received state and national acclaim. We have been designated an AQUIP Vanguard College and have earned the distinction of Michigan Quality Award winner. We are a candidate for the prestigious Malcolm Baldrige Award. We are clearly strategically poised as a vital college involved in a community that holds promise for the state of Michigan. In a 20-minute presentation, please convey how your leadership can inspire continuous quality improvement, create a community of high-level learners necessary to meet the needs of West Michigan, and be a catalyst for economic recovery in the state. How will you promote employee engagement in this process?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. I'm seeing some faces from earlier forums, and I'm seeing board members and some community members. So thank you again for all for coming. This, as was pointed out, this is a critical time in a college's history. Choosing a president is one of the most important things that happens because it does set the stage for the future in a variety of ways. And as the question has been posed, this college stands at the brink of real greatness, and so your choice of leader is very critical to where that's going to go. So anyway, I'd like to, again, thank you for coming. I share your passion for community colleges because I know you're here because of that passion, either as a faculty, a staff, a community member, or a board. It's a pretty noble cause, I think. Community colleges, I got hooked on them very early in my career, which interested. Half my life I spent in Michigan, so I'm a Michigander. I guess every place else I've been is shorter than that. So this is where I've spent most of my life. Let's put it that way. I grew up in the southeast Michigan, and born in Flint. I was raised in Berkeley, Michigan, northwest part of Detroit. I went to Wayne State University for my bachelor's and my master's degree. My first teaching position was I taught high school biology at Port Huron, Michigan, at Port Huron Northern High School. But while I was there, I got my master's at Wayne as well in biology. I taught a course at St. Clair County Community College. As an adjunct in that college, I taught biology, and I was hooked. That hooked me on community colleges. I loved the students. I loved the whole concept. I loved the campus, the college environment. I knew from that point on I didn't want to do, hall room duty and bathroom patrol anymore. So, no more high school for me. I really wanted to be in a community college. And subsequent to that, I've started to, investigate how can I become a community college faculty member. I got the opportunity to teach for a semester at Delta College in the Saginaw Bay City area. One of the faculty there was on a sabbatical leave, so I taught full time for 6 months at Delta College, which was which is a very remarkable college. It was one of the original League for Innovation colleges. So it also was a college that was set apart from a lot of others, like Grand Rapids is. With that experience, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I pursued a doctorate because I thought that was the way that I could get a position and keep it in a community college. So I got a doctorate from Idaho State University, again in biology. I thought I was going to never go back east of the Mississippi because I was in Idaho and I loved the mountains and the skiing and but I ended up I ended up across the Mississippi once again, and I was in upstate New York. The '80 Olympics had just occurred in Lake Placid, and that's where I went, St. Clair or North Country Community College, and I was there for 12 years. I taught biology again, but I got the opportunity to become the director of continuing education in the middle of my time there, where I learned a lot about entrepreneurial efforts, about community connection, a bottom line kind of approach to education, because in continuing ed we had to pay our salaries by the money we generated. So that's a real wake-up call in higher ed to have to do that. And so anyway, that was what I did at that college. But that started me on my administrative career, and I knew I wanted to be in community colleges. I didn't know I wanted to be in administration, but when I started the administrative role, I saw that this is a way to really expand the reach as somebody committed to community colleges, to expand that, to a much broader, a broader stance. So I want to back up just a little bit and talk about, who I am. I kind of gave you the quick career, couple presidencies. And by the way, very retired for 6 weeks now. I've been very retired. You said very. No, you said very retired. I did buy new golf clubs and a new bike. So, I guess that qualifies for very retired. I retired from that position, but not from a career. I was there's reasons, and I don't want to go into them at this point, but it's not really germane to the question. But I retired from that position looking for the next one, and this seems to be the one that I really would like. So I hope you consider that. But let me tell you about me, just some background about me. I think self-analysis is important, and as I try to look back at who I am and why community colleges mean so much to me, four cornerstones. I guess you need four typically. First of all is teaching. I have always been a teacher. I love being a teacher. I love teaching. I started at Boy Scout camp teaching sailing and canoeing and swimming, and it sort of was always an opportunity to teach was always something I really relished. So that really is a core of who I am. It's about teaching. Now my teaching is different. It's about teaching the board. It's about teaching the faculty. It's about teaching the community about the college and about its values. So it's teaching in a different sense, but I still consider myself a teacher. And, that's really an important part of my life. The next piece is all my degrees are in science. You might say, how does that prepare you to be a college administrator? Well, a scientist looks at the world in a certain way, and, it's about data, it's about logic, it's about problem solving. And so therefore, I bring that skill to my work. I really like to do a logical approach to things, not reactionary. I like to be proactive. I like data. I like data-driven decisions. I like, a culture of evidence for the college. Let's talk about where we want to go, but let's talk about some data about why. So that's an important part of who I am, is that logical approach. I am an athlete. I've always been involved with athletic things. I've coached, I've participated, I participate. I'm still a competitor. I beat the number 4 clay court player in the United States 2 weeks ago. But now he was in the over 80 group. But wait a minute, he was good. But I do like sports, and why I mention that, that's really part of me, is about being healthy, and participating in sports is just something that's really important to me. It's part of the balance of my life to be able to do those things. But what it brings to that foundation is the fact that I consider things in a team sense. I consider things as a coach. And so when I work with people, it's more as members of a team and not subordinates, or that's the approach I want to do, and have a team that all is going towards the same goal. That's a very important way for me to work. And the last piece is leadership. I've always been involved in leadership in some sense, from the youth fellowship group at church to 2 presidencies. So leadership is something that's important to me. I'm a student of leadership. I did, all my degrees in biology, but I did go to the Harvard Graduate School of Education and did a management development program, and I also went to Cornell and did a administrative leadership program there too. So I've studied leadership from that side. That's what I read. I tend to read a lot about leadership, a lot of biographies of important leaders. That's kind of, something that I do. And I teach leadership. I teach the Phi Theta Kappa Leadership Development Program. I've taught in our program at Broome in a Leadership Academy for faculty and staff. So that's my teaching. So I teach leadership. I really am a student of leadership, and I think those are important pieces of my life. Now, where does that bring me in terms of your question again? And I think those skills, that I from that kind of background, really has led me to be very successful in leadership in a variety of ways. Leadership in colleges and the communities that they serve. I mean, I want to play those kind of roles, not just in the college, but in the community. It's very important to me to be a person of the community, to be connected with the community, and I think that's a really critical presidential aspect, is to do that. Now, Grand Rapids Community College is clearly an excellent college. The awards that you have received, the Vanguard Award, the Vanguard designation, and the Michigan Quality Awards, those don't come from not being good. You are a great institution. And in fact, that's one of the things that makes me very fascinated by this college. The last college I went to, or was a president of, was really broken in many ways, and so it needed fixing. And that was a challenge that I enjoyed. It was very, very taxing and difficult, but it was, I made it, and I was very proud of where we got in 4 years. I look at Grand Rapids, and there's nothing wrong with Grand Rapids Community College, but sometimes good is the enemy of great. There's a lot of literature about that, and in order to keep that high level of quality that you have at this college, I think you need a special kind of leadership that will drive you to the next level. And that's the kind of leadership that I'd like to provide for you. I recently wrote an article with several colleagues, I think it was about 2 years ago, and it was entitled The Significant Community College. And that article was about how do you take a successful community college and make it significant. In other words, how do you take it to that next level? Sort of in the good to great genre, of some business literature, but applying it to colleges. And some of the things that we approached in there is how do you get to be significant statewide, nationally, known in your community? How do you become this significant organization? And these are things that I'd like to say that if I were to come here, these are the movements I'd want to make with the college to take it to the next level. There's clearly a focus on learning here, but that focus, I think, needs to go to the point where this is recognized as the college of choice for this area. It's a college of choice for any number of reasons. We need to make that statement. We need to look at not, data like minority enrollment, but more importantly, minority graduation rates. We need to look at those kinds of data to go to the next level. We need to be significant and play a significant role in the community as a college. And what I mean by that is not just to get support from the community, but to actually have political clout in the community. This college makes this community what it is, and it needs to make that case that it plays a major role. It's significant. It's easy to be partners in communities, but I think the role I'd like to see the college play is an essential resource for the community and its development. Balancing budgets are always difficult, but it's just math on the bottom line. But how do you continue to drive a college forward in times of diminishing funding for whatever reason? Well, that has to do with mission-driven reallocation. It has to do with looking for alternative funds. It has to do with working with foundations and grants. It has to look with, to do with strategies that can improve, the college's movement forward even in times of less than favorable funding. And honestly, colleges are we're going to be in that vein for a long time. So we better learn how to make things happen with less money. We need to do that, and that would be a significant college. Other kinds of things. All of this leads to, I believe, to make the case for the college's role in making the community a stronger one. And, I think that can happen. Technology, it's available. As I walk around, I see, computers everywhere. But my question would be, is it really increasing learning? And that should be the measure. How is technology increasing student learning? So we need to look at that and make that movement towards significance. And then, finally, there's a traditional college culture, and we all know what it's like. It's like I've said before, the culture of higher education rivals the papacy in its length, and we still wear those medieval robes that, at graduation. It's got a long history, a long tradition, and it's not bad. But I think, from that traditional kind of culture, I think we need to move in a transcendental kind of culture. In other words, not just serving students, but absolutely amazing them. And those are the kind of things that we wrote about in the article, and they're things that I've tried to apply at Broome, and we've gone a long way. And there are things I'd like to try to apply at this college. So how can you accomplish all that? I can speak about the things that, I just said, but how do you make that happen? The key to me in making that happen is about strategic planning. And, planning that's inclusive, that involves every element of the college. It involves the board, it involves the community, it involves the students. And you have a plan that everybody can buy into, a plan that moves the college forward in the areas that I just mentioned. So planning is absolutely critical for this all to happen, and it's something that I enjoy. I think it's incredibly important. I think it's one of the most important things that a president does, is to lead a significant planning effort, a planning effort that means something, not just a book that collects dust on the credenza, but a living document, a living, breathing, dynamic document that everybody understands is the direction of the college. Make your budget decisions, make your strategic decisions, all based on the plan that we've all developed together. So it's a future that we agree together we're going to go after, and it's a future that we all pursue together. Now, I think I've got how many minutes left? 4 minutes. Oh, strategic planning. I have enough time. So, the planning process, and these are things I've done at other colleges, but I want to just give an example and something I think is important, and particularly with this college. The planning process led to a lot of achievements. A lot of the college moved forward in areas that it never thought it could. And a lot of it had to do with a plan that everybody bought into, a plan that was transparent, that was clear, that was empowering for everyone at the college. But one of the things that was very, came out of our planning process that I think was very critical was the concept of sustainability. And I know that's an issue at this community and at this college. But one of the major things I felt that came out was the sustainability issue that we all agreed, faculty, the staff, and the students, was critically important. Ultimately, the board agreed. At first, they thought that will cost us money, but I was trying to make the point, no, that will save us money. If we look at sustainable efforts in terms of environmental issues and reducing a carbon footprint, you're also reducing a utility bill. So sustainability is about how to make, create the future without destroying things in the process. So we looked at environmental sustainability and had a major impact on how that went. Our master planning process included all LEED buildings, and it actually talked about getting rid of older buildings to put in buildings that were efficient. It really grabbed that essence of that. Economic sustainability. Community colleges play a major role, I think, in the economy. I've heard terms like the engines of prosperity are community colleges. They play a major role in how a community can thrive and prosper, how it can keep the youth in the community, how it can, bring in companies to provide high-paying jobs. Community colleges play a very major role in that, and should, in the sustainability of the economy of the area. And then finally, I believe, something that I think is very important and is often overlooked, they play a role in sustaining democracy. You probably have read literature about how community colleges initially were referred to as democracy's colleges. Well, I think that role has never been more important than it is today. But to have a sustainable community, environmentally, economically, you need one that is sustainable in terms of democracy and participating in democracy. So we need to have a major role with students to make them understand how they play a role in their community and in the elections, in its governance. And if you want environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, you have to be there to elect the people that will make that happen. you need to participate. Maybe you need to get elected yourself. So that's a role that I think we have to play as the community college. To really make a sustainable community, we need to work with our students to model behaviors for the community and make an economic difference and make that difference sustained over time by good politics and students that understand it and are critical and understand the role they play in democracy. So, 30 seconds. I'm finished. So, but I'd love to answer questions. So.
Thank you, Dr. Sprague. If you have questions and haven't done so already, please write them down, hand them down to the aisle a moment, and folks will collect them, and then Dr. Olson will be right back with you. But while they're gathering those, let me start with one just to get the question and answer process rolling. Dr. Spraggs, what has been your experience with shared governance, and how do you use staff input in the process of problem solving or initiating change?
Well, when I started working at North Country, my first full-time, permanent community college job, I became involved with the College Council, which was the college governance organization. I also was involved with the College Union. I was treasurer of the faculty union. But I saw in college governance a real important way for colleges to be organized. You can't ignore all the bright people that are involved in a college. I mean, by nature, community college people have got degrees, are smart. Why would you ignore all of that talent? Well, a college council, which was faculty, staff, administrators, and students, to me is a wonderful vehicle to really talk about where the college is going to go. So I've used that model, everywhere I've been, is to try to find the college governance system as, as a valid, important input. At Broome, when I was trying to deal with a, rather, a lot of animosity over a contract dispute, to get the culture back to where it needed to be, I used the college governance system. I went to the college governance organization, the college council as it was called, and said, I want you to take charge of planning for the future for the college, the planning stuff I just talked about. I want you to take part of it. I want you to take charge of it. I want you to run it. I want you to evaluate it. I want you to create a new plan roll out the, a 5-year plan to another year, and I want you to evaluate how we all did. So I empowered the college council to do that. The college council up to that point, it was sort of like it's your turn to be on college council, even though it was an elected process. But now, that it's competitive to be part of the college council because the empowering planning and then the subsequent tying budgeting and, and other aspects of the college to the plan made it important. And it was an important thing to do, an important input from faculty and staff. And it takes some trust and it takes you've got to show that what's in the plan is valued, what is in the plan gets funded. Those, prioritized by the plan effectiveness or the plan, what can it establish, that makes a lot of difference. So collegial governance is very, very important to me. And it comes in different forms and varieties at every college. You have different organizations, but, I respect college governance, collegial governance. It's something that I like to work with because programs that, and decisions that are made as a result of vast input, a lot of input, organized input through something like a college council. Maybe your input was not, implemented, but it was heard. That's very important, to allow people to be heard, to allow constituencies of the college to be heard. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but it means you were heard. It's part of the mix, and decision making comes from that. I told you, part of your question was about problem solving. Well, problem solving to me is a natural kind of thing. It's what science is about in many, many ways. It's about solving problems. And key to me in that is data, communication, because everything isn't, even as a scientist, I have to admit, everything can't be boiled down to data. But it has to do with culture, and you need to understand the culture in decision making. You need to take that into respect. You need to take a very holistic view for problem solving. You need to take the community, the bigger community, into respect in order to really have effective decision making and solve problems that will be accepted and bought into by the whole community. So those are some thoughts.
Thank you. Dr. Olson?
We have a question from the audience. With the understanding that there is a need to be inclusive with the entire county, how could you help GRCC buy into the community's college concept?
In the greater GRCC community buy into the concept.
Correct.
Well, I think that's one of the president's major roles, is to be the spokesperson for the college, to be the face of the college. I know this is an old face, but anyway, it is a face that, that's important. The college president needs to be the face of the college. So it means being involved in community organizations in a broad sense. This is a big county, a big area. I couldn't do it all, but I would really look at the vice presidents and various other and deans, et cetera, to be part of that extension to the community. So the face of the college wouldn't be just me, but it would be broader than that. But it's very important to have that interaction with communities. And I assume that the communities that we serve are pretty well represented by the individuals in the room, and we need to work together on that. We need to all be on the same page. So maybe there's a talking points page that everybody gets for whatever community you're in about the values of GRCC to the greater community. I was in a community forum a little while ago, and the comment was, well, shouldn't you change the name of the college? It should be a broader one. I said, probably not on my first day. I wouldn't do that. That's not the only way to do that. I mean, there are branding opportunities to make the college, to make it understood as the whole community's college, and that would be a challenge for the president and for all of us to make that happen, to make people understand how an investment in GRCC is a huge investment in the community, and all those things I talked about, a sustainable community environmentally, economically, and democratically. It's an investment in all those things for the community. I've had studies done at colleges I've worked at, and we are losing a real opportunity if we don't talk about the value of higher education. I know in Michigan, a lot of high-paying jobs didn't require a lot of skills, but those are going away. In most of the country, higher education gets higher pay, and you can show an associate's degree doubles your pay over your lifetime, a bachelor's degree triples your pay, or whatever the numbers are. But there's, it's pretty dramatic. But more importantly, besides that, you have reduced incarceration rates for educated people. So that saves the community money, and it's a social issue that should be dealt with through education, not incarceration. Healthcare is one of the things that's breaking everybody's back. Well, a community, people that have got an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree have a better understanding of their own personal health and have probably a better understanding of healthy lifestyle. That will reduce healthcare costs in the future. And ultimately, people making those getting higher pay are unfortunately in this country paying taxes at a higher rate as well. So that really supports the infrastructure of the community and back to the college again. So those are kind of things that we really need to, as a group, promote and really, like I said, a script, talking points to your local Rotary, your local church group, whatever, about the value. Everybody needs to get on that page to make the case for the college, not just the president, even though that would be a major role for the president to play.
Thank you. Next question from the audience. What type of college-wide crisis or emergency have you had to handle in your previous positions, and what were the key strategies you employed to handle that crisis successfully? And if you could learn anything from that or have the do-over, what would you do differently?
Well, one of my major points has been to avoid crisis, and I will give you a crisis example, but campus security has become a major issue. I was at Red Rocks Community College when the Columbine shootings occurred, and Columbine High School was one of our major feeder high schools to Red Rocks. So it was really, if there's ever those flashbulb moments that you'll never forget, that was one for me as a college administrator, at a college that our students knew those kids that got killed, and I don't even. It goes beyond that. The parents of one of the shooters was a community college employee. So it was a very difficult time. But from that, I have felt really compelled to really look at security. The first person I met with at Broome was the head of security. I want to know today, are we ready for an emergency? Are we ready for a crisis? I didn't get the answer I wanted necessarily, but I got an honest one, which was good. And that was a really major challenge for me, is to move forward with a proper security in every form. And after Virginia Tech and Northern Illinois, we even ramped it up faster. So I'm leaving Broome with a very good security force with multiple levels of notification, and those are the things we kind of learned from the previous crisis, which I haven't talked about yet. But we really took the lessons and implemented everything we could to keep the campus secure. And it's something I would really want to look at here, because it's just, it's something that stands out to me. Campus safety is absolutely critical, and you have to be very prepared for it. We created student assessment teams for, if a faculty member had a student that they don't know, is this guy okay? We had a team of counselors and psychologists and security staff and student service staff. We need to analyze, is this student an issue, a problem? What can we do? How can we avoid? So, we did those kind of things. So anyway, that's very important to me for crises. I will point out the crisis that happened it was about 2 years ago is, you may have seen it on CNN, but Brevard, Broome County had floods. The Susquehanna and the Shenango River converge and it went over the 500-year floodplain. This was huge. 100 homes were washed down the river, and it crippled the county. Essentially, many of my staff members were, lost homes, and we had what did we do? We had to close the college, use all of our, the systems we had in place, which proved to be not enough. We created the texting and emailing. We have all that kind of alert systems now at the college. We couldn't reach everybody. I was very concerned about faculty and staff that we couldn't reach, and we really worked. I was there for days trying to find people because we didn't lose anybody, but people lost their whole lives, essentially. We put together ways to try to help everyone that was affected in the flood. The college we weren't flooded, but we became a resource we had an ice arena at the college, and that arena was in the summer, so it wasn't ice, but all the emergency workers that came in, the utility workers that came in, we provided lodging for everyone, so we became a community resource in that process. But that was one crisis that you never thought. It started to rain one night, and the next day people are losing their homes. I lived by the river and watched houses going down the river. Pretty amazing kind of event. So you never know, but the college can play a role for the community. It needs to play a role for its people. That was incredibly important to me, to know that everybody was okay. And if people weren't okay, what could we do as a college community to support them? And we did that. And we did the best we could to help everybody out. I got through the crisis and went back to classes, learning about communication devices, which really is very important in general in any kind of emergency situation. You need multiple avenues of communication with everybody, faculty, students, and staff.
Dr. Spraggs, in your presentation you spoke about the next level. This is a two-part question. What do you feel the next level will be, and what is your vision of great? That's the first part. Second part is, we have already been working on a 5-year plan. How might you continue or change our plans?
Well, great is something I'd want to define with you, and that was implicit, I think, in what I was talking about. The planning process is a way to do that. The planning process is one that we would work together and define what we think is great or what is significant. I gave some examples of being that, critical resource, an alliance with the community, being a choice for college. Those are just generalized things, but how do what do they mean here? And I'm not about to try to define them for this college. It would be something that we would define together. And I would need to be part of the process as well, because I've got to sell this to the board, to the community. I have to find, do the work to make the resources work so that these things can happen. So it's a project that we would all work on together, and primarily through the planning process. Now, I know you have a planning document, I think, that goes through 2010 at this point. My only comment about that is, you have planning. Critical issues for me is that a planning document is something that's very user-friendly. I saw the United States Department of Education strategic plan, and it folded up into something that would fit into your pocket. Now we didn't get that far with our plan, but it was a very, like a 10-page small church bulletin, that, I encouraged everyone to keep on the top of their desk, And so a document that's very usable, that's very clear. So I'd like to see that. On the web, I've read as much as I could. I would just say that I would try to make it very user-friendly for everybody. So it's easy to refer to the strategic plan. It's easy to look at it. It's easy to know what is a priority and what is not. So that would be one comment I would make. I think change is so rapid in our society today that for us to have a document that stands for 5 years and then is renewed for 5 years, it doesn't work. I think you need to renew your strategic plan yearly. You need to evaluate where you got in the first year, what's still on the table, what can be taken off, and push it out another year. I like the idea of a rolling 5-year plan so that it's renewed every year. Every year there's a new document out, a new strategic plan, pushed out another year into the future. Change happens so fast, you've got to be very flexible, nimble, and with a plan that is dynamic as well.
Dr. Spraggs, we have about 15 minutes remaining in this session. Dr. Olson, I have 3 questions left. How about you? You're done? Okay. All right, well, that can help you gauge your time appropriately then. What is your experience with fundraising in a community college, and what role does a college foundation play in the implementation of college strategy?
I hate to beat up this planning thing, but at Broome there wasn't a plan. Therefore, the foundation really didn't have a plan either. So to raise money for things you don't know, which you don't know what they are, what you're raising money for, it's very difficult to raise money. So the planning process is something that I think is critical again to a foundation. Now the foundation knows what the priorities of the college are, what are the issues. I sat down with my foundation director after we got our first plan and sort of said, okay, what do you think the foundation can contribute to this? Which of these, what can you tick off by helping us with money? And of course I had a lot of ideas about the things that they could help us with. And in fact, that was what we did. We had the plan, shared it with the foundation board, and they contributed to the idea, well, the foundation should support this initiative. That's one that we would like to support. And then, as time went on, it got to be, this is one that so-and-so, I think, will give money for if you do that. So, we started to work through that. Now, my role, of course, was to sell so-and-so on the initiative and ask for the money and ask for more than they could give so I could, dwindle it down to get more than we expected. So, so that was the process that I worked on. So I think the president plays a very major role in selling the concepts to donors, to working with the foundation intimately, to identify donors, and then to work to get that the funding for those things. And we funded many initiatives from the plan that I couldn't have got out of the normal college operating. But on the other hand, this is that point about diminishing resources. If we could fund things through the foundation money, then I had more money to strategically place in some other initiative at the college. So it's a very important role that it plays. The foundation in 4 years increased in value. I mean, the endowment went up $4 million from 12 to 16 million. And I can't take credit for all of that, but I'll take credit for some of it because I was out there campaigning for funding for the college in a variety of ways, received some of the largest grants that community foundations ever gave to anyone in those 4 years. So no one's handed me a check for $1 million yet. But that's a goal I have. But it's something the president really needs to be involved with, is the fundraising part, and it can really make a difference in the strategic plan, in the funding issues of the college. It can really make things happen by using the foundation and getting people, again, selling the concept of the plan, of the college, and of the benefit of the community to potential donors. Very important role for a president.
Dr. Spraggs, a question from the audience is, how involved would you see yourself being in the day-to-day operations of the college?
Well, I like being on campus. All right, I like to see students. It kind of renews my faith in what we do. It renews my, I want to be where students are. Now, a president can't always be on campus. All right, so that's not going to work. However, I look at, there are, as I can see it, there's a great administrative team. From what I've seen, from accomplishments, from the way the college is running, I'm not going to mess with that. But I want to be a leader in that organization. I am not a micromanager by any sense of the imagination. I like to think of myself more as the visionary. I like to think of myself more as the cheerleader. I've said that a number of times about the issues. So I'm very happy to have a well-run college, well-run, and it doesn't have to be by me. However, I need to know how it's run, why it's run, what's going on. So the communication piece to me is critical. I do not need to get my fingers in everything. Absolutely not. It would be a waste of my time and probably yours if I tried to run everything. So, that's not the way I work. My day-to-day operation would be more on a leadership level that is talking about, let me hear what you're doing, let me hear what the problems are, let me talk about how they interconnect with the other areas of the college. Is there a rough spot that I can move over? I'm going to be working with the board to try to implement their initiatives, their goals, their ends, and bringing that back to the administrative staff. How can we do this? So it wouldn't be micromanagement by any means. That's not my style, and I think it's really counterproductive. So, that's the way it would work. I think I would have to be in the community. I would give you that on an evolutionary kind of process. If I were to be your president, I would be very much campus-based for, the first 6-8 months of my time here. It would be like 60% campus, 40% community, because I can't ignore the community part either. That may change over time as things are running and organizations are operating to do more community work, but I'd never, the 50-50 thing is kind of where I'd want it to, that'd be a minimal kind of approach, because I want to be involved with the campus. Have to be involved with the community to serve the campus and serve the community properly. Now, if we were to go for this next big millage, maybe my external piece of time would be greater than the 50% because of the nature of that event. So, that's kind of the way I look at it. I want to be on campus. I would never give that up. I have no great desires to be nationally anybody, so I don't have a desire to be in Washington very much or, whatever. That's not really where my focus at this point in my life is. It's about, a community and a college that we can take the greatness together. That's where my focus would be.
Thank you. I have another question from the audience. Describe a mistake you made and what did you learn from it?
Well, I made so many. It's hard to focus on one. But I really say that in all sincerity. I give people that work with me the opportunity to make mistakes. I don't think if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing much. I mean, you need to push the envelope. So, sure, I've made mistakes, programmatic mistakes, but they were a good try. And for every mistake I made, I learned something. And for every mistake I made, I tried to apply the learning to the next process. I'll give you one, a silly example. I'm at Red Rocks Community College. Out my office window, I look at Coors Brewery. All right? And in Denver, Colorado, there's more microbreweries per capita than any place in the country. We need a micro brewing program here. Obviously. And as a biologist, well, we got a microbiologist. It's all about yeast and fermentation. It's chemistry. It's microbiology. This is perfect. We got the staff. All I got to do is buy some stills and other kinds of things, and we actually worked forward on that project. I got some people excited about it, but so we moved forward with a microbrewing program at the college. Well, what I didn't find out until too late is that every company that had a microbrewery wanted to train their own people to their own standards, to their own secret recipe, and didn't want anybody with any experience because they wanted to treat them from scratch. So it ended up to be hobby brewers, which was not the market that we were looking at. But we ended up with some as a result of that, Coors Brewery started to send employees for advanced training in some of those areas of microbiology and other things. So it had a benefit, but the initial plan was a flop. But those things you sometimes do. But you got to take chances. You got to take chances. You got to allow an environment where taking chances mean logical, careful, thought out projects. And if failure occurs, just learn from it. That's the key. Learn from it and make something out of it the next time.
Yes, that's the last question I have is what is your experience working with unions, and how would you see applying that experience to working with union employees and at-will employees at Grand Rapids Community College?
Well, when I was at Port Huron Northern High School, I was the vice president of a 750-member faculty, union at that. So, and I was on the bargaining team, so I've been on that side. When I was at North Country up in Saranac Lake Placid, I was the treasurer of the faculty union there, much smaller. I think there was 20 of us. I'm not sure, 20, 30 maybe. We didn't have a lot of power. So I worked on that side. But then, as I went into administration, I've been on bargaining teams in Florida, in Colorado, and then certainly, my last experience at Broome was a major thing about unions. There's 3 unions there. Faculty, there's a secretarial custodial union, and there's a middle management union called the Guild. So I was, we had to bargain with just about everybody, but the management confidential staff of about 20 people. So I have, been on both sides of the table. I don't have anything against collective bargaining. I think it's important. I think it's evolved over time. It used to be for protection of workers, and now it's more about benefits and working conditions in another sense, and that's okay. I just think that we need to all come to the table about, in a union environment and talk about what's good for students still. That is an issue in negotiations, I believe, and it needs to be part of it. But I, have worked successfully since I've been at Broome, all 3 unions. Once I got the long-standing faculty contract settled in the first 7 or 8 months I was there. The other 2 unions we settled pretty quickly, and so it can be done. I don't think you need to have a us against them philosophy, but that's setting the culture up to promote that, promote a culture of transparency, of trust, and then when you get to bargaining, it's not a bunch of secret stuff going on. It's already kind of out there. The trust and respect is already built up, and I think that's the way it should work. And then you should look for mutual gains in bargaining. How do it's not all about one side or the other, and it doesn't have to be one side against the other. It's about both sides coming together to get something that we both want. So that would be my approach, and it's worked. I certainly have experience in it. Florida doesn't have very strong unions. Colorado doesn't really have unions. Michigan certainly does. New York certainly does, and I've experienced it in those places as well. So.
Dr. Spraggs, those are the end of our questions submitted by the audience, so we'll give you...
Voice, too.
Well, that was my problem a little earlier. We're going to give you a minute to just make any closing comments, and then I have some final announcements, and our time is up for this short period.
Well, all right. Well, thank you again for inviting me back. The search committee did that, but I think that search committee was an extension of all of you. So thank you so much for having me here, giving me this opportunity to talk about something that I hope you probably got how passionate I am about community colleges. And this, is stressful on the larynx, but it's not stressful to me. I love talking about colleges and about ways we can work together and make things happen in community. So this has been fun. So anyway, thank you very much. Great questions. And I really would like to see you again, in September, I think is when. But if I don't, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.